On day one, your teachers introduced you to the Patriot Pen in the big sense of what it's about. Today, our goal is to move students into finalizing their major ideas and starting to develop their details and elaboration. Remember that in the Patriot Pen, we are writing not just as students but young Americans for a much more authentic audience, this time writing for judges at the local VFW, which stands for the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Many of these are adults who once served in the military or who had family members that served in the military. This is also a much more open-ended essay. You get a very broad theme, and you are to develop on your own your intro, body, and conclusion paragraphs. There's no text to pull from. There's no specific quotes that we're looking for. Finally, we need to remember that we're looking at a word count where we must have between 300 and 400 words when we're done. That's about a page. On your first day, you were supposed to take time to brainstorm your big ideas. What are all the possible answers that you could have to this question? How are you inspired by America? It's a great prompt because there's so many possibilities and there's lots of different directions to go. It's also exactly what they're aiming for. As a young person, how does our country and its people and its history make us set big goals for our futures and the future of our country, right? So we're looking ahead. One of your goals should be to sit there and think up 5, 6, 10 possible ideas you could use to answer. Each of these big ideas will then become a body paragraph later on. Once you have your list of 5 or 10 possibilities, then it's time to look back through it and decide which you like the best. And when you're choosing, you want to pick things that you think are important, that are interesting, that you feel like you have lots of details that you can write about in order to explain it. You don't want to pick an idea that then you don't know how to turn it into a paragraph. So which of these do you feel like you actually have things to say? And finally, you have to think back a little bit to who the audience is and which ones they will most connect with. So as we work today, we're focusing on these first 2 parts of the rubric that the judges use. Remember that it's a pretty open rubric. The first piece is what they call knowledge of the theme. And essentially, they're looking for, can you pick 3 or 2 or 4 really important answers to the questions? And are they on topic? Are they deep and meaningful? Then you get judged on how well you develop those ideas. Can you provide details and elaboration that help drive your message home? Today, we're focusing mostly on the body paragraphs. We'll come back to the introduction and conclusion later. Sometimes on a really open-ended prompt like this, it's much easier to write your introduction at the end when you actually know what you're saying, and then you can introduce your audience to it. You don't want to do this when you're still guessing in the dark about how your essay will unfold. Throughout this whole writing process, make sure we are keeping the VFW's values in mind, especially the idea that they are really interested in elevating their veterans. They want to promote patriotism across the country and honor and recognize and celebrate those who have served. That sense of military service then extends into the fact that they care a great deal about people serving in their communities as well. So it doesn't only have to be about the military. But that who is really important, and that's a valuable skill to practice in writing. We should be able to think about our audience and tailor our writing to that. The ideas we include, the style that we're following, the type of language that we are using. The main objective from day 2 was to fill in the back of our graphic organizer, taking ideas from our note card, which are the big concepts, and recording those on these concept lines, each of which becomes the central idea of a body paragraph. Then we're recording a few details to use within that body paragraph, making sure they closely connect to this concept. You might have 2, you might have 3. It depends on how in-depth you're going to go with each of these. They don't need to be complete sentences yet. The idea is just to give yourself the information that you will then put into words when you sit down to write. One tool we offered the students, which you can come back to in this video if you think it will be helpful, is a document we called Elaborating with the Ease. And what it does is it gives us all kinds of different examples of the types of things we might include in our body paragraphs. So you can be explaining what you mean by a certain phrase. You can be giving your own personal experiences or things that they might be familiar with from everyday life that relate. Examples of people you know who have lived out the things you're talking about. You can also research what experts have to say or events that have taken place, even statistics and data, so long as you are referencing those sources when you put them in your essay. This is a great little checklist for us to use as we are trying to develop our writings. Students had about 20 minutes to fill in as much of this organizer as they could. Most students got at least 1 box done, many got 2 boxes done. Another thing to keep in mind is with that 400 word count maximum, you might not have space for 3 body paragraphs. And so if you're putting a lot of things down on some of these first lines and you feel like you have a lot to say about your first 2 big ideas, then maybe you're only going to pick 2 ideas. But if you feel like you're a little light on some of these and you're not sure you're going to have huge body paragraphs, then that's where you might need 3 of them. And so that's something we can judge further as we go along. We also took time to complete the official form, so please make sure you're getting this from one of your teachers. You need to plug in this information at the top so you can see one of us for help in how to do that. You need to sign the bottom left corner and date it with whatever the date is that you're signing it. And then you need to get a parent signature by the middle of the week that this is due so that we can submit that to the VFW. We aren't able to submit essays unless they also have the form. Check in with your teachers to get help with that as you get ready.